Hello and welcome to another episode of BW Marketing World's new interview series in partnership with Kaizen, BW Marcom Power Talks, conversations that drive the next big moves. This is the series where I talk to corporate communications and marketing captains about the latest trends, the changing role of communications leaders, new gen strategies, and a lot more. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, Miss Deepa Dey, who is an integrated comms specialist. Welcome, Miss Dey.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Integrated communications are more crucial than ever in a world of fleeting attention and content overload, if I may say. A unified strategy cuts through the noise, ensuring clarity and impact. Now, AI and advanced tech is something that's accelerating this shift, making messaging more personalized, more data-driven, more real-time. But talking about this opportunity comes with its own set of risks. The deepfakes, misinformation, and the challenge of maintaining trust. Currently, the real test for brands is just not using AI efficiently, but integrating it thoughtfully and keeping communication more authentic, more humane. The future belongs to those who strike that balance, ensuring their message not only reaches but really truly resonates. Now, now, Deepa, you've worked in different sectors: telecom, airlines, healthcare, FMCG, with multinationals. Given your experience, tell me how you have observed the transition in strategies. I mean, you hold 30 years of experience. What has been your approach of crafting communication strategies across such various industries?
Great question, and I think very, very apt for the times that we are in. But I'm going to answer it a little differently. I'm going to say some things are different and some things are the same. So, whether I crafted communication strategy 30 years ago or whether I'm doing it now, there are two, three things that I have to keep in mind. One is who is my target audience? B, what is the objective of this communication exercise? And C, how am I going to create the content for it to land well? I think that is ubiquitous. Whether you are using AI as a platform or printed content as a platform, that's ubiquitous. Because if you don't know who you are talking to and for what reason, then I think the entire objective of your exercise is defeated even before you start. So when I started my career many years ago, I only had to worry about five newspapers and how those five newspapers carried the story of the brand and the company, and thereby building trust with the company and its products. I think that has changed. I would say a tectonic shift has happened there because now you are no longer looking at newspapers or you're not looking at magazines. You're looking at newspapers, magazines, online, offline, consumer generated content, etc., and many other things. So I think what builds trust has to be looked at very differently. You need to build trust through every single moments of truth with all your stakeholders. So you build trust through your customer care channels, you build trust at the shop floor, you build trust through your communication, you build trust through your employee communication and how they are appearing on social media, you build trust through how your CEOs are delivering messages in a town hall, which is now getting recorded and snapped and cut into pieces and then distributed. So you have to build trust through everything, which actually doesn't make it very simple for today's communicators and communication professionals. And I think the other thing that is really come into play in a very big way is the lines are blurring. Lines between what used to be traditionally called advertising or marketing or brand building and PR are all blurring. Now, depending on what you want to do, again, I'm going back to the reason behind the communication exercise. Do you want to sell? Do you want to build responsible, like, do you want to build reputation responsibly? Or do you want to provide a platform for your internal stakeholders to communicate in an effective way? What is it that you want? Basis that, then you have to choose the platform. Earlier, everything used to go into one bucket. So if you wanted a press release to go out on a product, you went to the same newspaper. If you wanted an HR policy to be talked about, you went to the same newspaper. If you wanted your CEOs to be profiled, you went to the same newspaper. Now you can't do that anymore because we are consuming content in different ways across different platforms. So if I want to sell a product, I will probably go into programmatic thinking and take it to a platform like Instagram or a Facebook where I can actually purchase. If I'm looking at positioning my CEO, I would probably look at taking his conversation outside of the traditional platforms into a LinkedIn. So I think now we have to also start thinking about what messages fit which channel. So I think it has to be a combination of all of that. But in any case, whatever you used in order to build trust, you still have to be authentic. You still have to be prompt. You still have to have a dialogue. I mean, earlier people used to just publish one sided conversation, like, okay, you read it in the newspaper, that's it. Now, every consumer wants a dialogue. They want to know more. They want to have a chat. They want to have an experience. So, how do you create those opportunities? I think those are also equally important.
Interesting, because we're talking about how different output is having a different impact, right? With different objectives. I would also want to bring in how the role is evolving. Just because there are different factors of it, different facets of it, there's a conversation going around that a lot of popcorn leaders are not liking the fact that in some of the companies, it depends companies to companies, but in some of the companies, the role is being directed to the CMO part. Many popcorn leaders are now reporting to a marketing head. Now, this is a point to be talked about, or let's say debated about. What is your view on this? I understand that this can be different for different companies, but from a larger lens, how do you perceive it? And over the years of working in this domain, how do you look at it?
I think we put too much time and effort in debating where the role sits
Hmm.
as against what the role should actually do. And if the role is, if the person sitting at that table with the designation is the person upskilling themselves to push themselves out of the box that people put you in. So here is my take on life. Life puts you in boxes. It's up to you to either stay in that box or move out of it. So there is no point in whining saying, oh, why is my role reporting into a CMO? My only thinking would be outperform your role, outperform your ability, and let them take you out of that box of a CMO and put you directly reporting
The
into
top of.
the CCO or being the chief communication. I mean, depending on whether it's a global company, then the chief communication officer. If it's an Indian company, then the CEO. So I think a large part of this conversation needs to be how can I change it, as opposed to how can the situation be changed. Because
Very well.
what can you change? You can only change things which are in your control. There is no point in wasting time saying, oh, this is happening, that is happening, and therefore I am not. That's just I think we should go past that now. We've done that for a long time.
Very well explained. Very well explained. Now, Deepa, I would want your to shift your attention to reputation management, or let's say crisis management. They are some way interlinked. Now, in today's world, as you rightly mentioned, the channels are many, the attention are across the span. Now, I really want your take on how the strategy is evolving. As you initially mentioned that there are some of the points that remains unchanged, that are traditional. Even if you crafted a strategy 30 years ago, these are some of the points that will never change, right? But given that, what will change in 2025's crisis management strategy?
So again, crisis management strategy are very fundamentally based on context of the business. So understand more and more people I feel are not spending enough time to understand their business that they support. And I'll tell you what's happening, and I've seen that happen with my teams also at some point in time, is that people are so busy with everyday work. You really don't step back and say, what is the business that I'm supporting? What does it actually solve for? What is it? What are the rules that govern this business? What are the regulations that govern this business? So once we have been able to understand the context in which the business operates in a much more clearer fashion, only then are we able to plan for crisis. Crisis is actually, I mean, you have to look at crisis from a very, I would say 40,000 feet. Look at it on a regular basis. Create a risk register. So while I say understanding your business is very important, is once you understand the entire process of your business, then you know where are the risks. So if I'm in a manufacturing industry, I know my risk is starting with R&D, creating that product, to manufacturing of the product, to supply chain of the product, to on-site consumer interaction. So I will understand what are my hot buttons. Create a risk register. Look at that risk from time to time. If you don't understand it, co-opt other team members, co-opt your legal head, co-opt your HR head, co-opt your head of regulatory function or government affair functions. Create a small group who can meet on a regular basis to assess this crisis charter and see what is it that is now moving from a green to a yellow and could be a potential red tomorrow. Now every business will have issues. It is important for us to catch the issue before it hits the consumer or before it hits whoever it is not supposed to be hitting. Now, if we are able to, I'm not saying you can actually stop every single crisis, but I have seen in my life you can minimize the impact to a great extent. The other thing I have found which works enormously well in your favor is if you're able to train your employees to look for the triggers and create a proper escalation matrix. For instance, and I'll give you an example, when I was working with Hindustan Unilever, a bottle of Horlicks was returned by a customer because it had some evils in it. Now, that was immediately triggered back to the comms team. So the comms team then got involved to figure out how can we talk to the customer better? How can we help the customer understand everything, as well as how can we take that information back to our R&D, take that information back to manufacturing sites to be able to handle the problem. The problem essentially was, in a hot tropical country like ours, if you don't tighten the cap of the bottle, you tend to have weevils in it. But to a the ability to train the frontline salespeople to explain that better to the customer without having a fight, without having, like, I'm saying it because that's true kind of a thing. So that kind of creating those scripts, helping to have that, in some cases actually hand holding that conversation. Now the thing is, what it does, now some people will say, well, it's just a waste of time. No, that's what you need to understand, because that one little bottle can actually end up going to such an escalated state that you may have the food inspector shutting down your facility. So I'm just giving a very small example of how you can actually plan, co-opt your people, and of course have your holding statements ready, have them in language which are simple. And I know that legal teams have their jobs to do and they give us well crafted sentences. Have that dialogue with them and see how you can make it more simple for the people to understand better. And
This sounds
and of
really
course,
basic. Yeah, go for it, go for it.
this is very basic. And the other thing is, of course, on the other side, you have to constantly keep a track on what's happening,
Hmm.
as in whether you are checking the newspapers, television, have a complete set of tracking mechanism in place so that you are getting information real time. and create an escalation matrix that if information comes like this, it has to be escalated to who? Will it be escalated? Everything can't be escalated to your CEO, because CEO cannot be taking in the middle of crisis 15 decisions. Some of it could probably go to a CMO. For instance, when I was working at Airtel and we had this complete breakdown of our services because of a fire in Bombay, it was at the end of the year when the entire entire corporate sitting in Bombay was sending information for the annual sales information to their motherships in different other countries. Everything was shut down because there was no internet, right? So they couldn't send an email, they couldn't send a like an attachment, they could do nothing. So so there were lots of things that we were doing, and yes, we were working very closely with the CEO. But I also reached out to the CMO saying, you know what, I think we need to say sorry. It's taking more than 72 hours, and he agreed with me. And there was a half-page ad the next day. We didn't even involve the CEO. He may have, I didn't. But I'm saying you need to co-opt people. You need to get people together to be able to work on the same thing with their inputs as well.
Whether they this I mean, while this may sound very, very basic, these are the basic check boxes, but in practical life, these are the huge tasks to be able to do efficiently. And you did explain it very well. These are some of the, I mean, nuggets of wisdom the younger set of professionals can have. Thank you so
Actually,
much for
having
this
a
one.
risk register from the day you start a job is probably the best thing to do. Create that risk register and follow that. Like once a month, review it. Review it with a group of people. And then just when it, and create an escalation matrix. And when the risk register is looking that, hey, I cannot control it, I need to escalate, you need to escalate before that. So create that opportunity for you to also have that buffer so that you can also work on things to mitigate the risk.
Good that, I mean, good for us that you have already shared a couple of very informative pieces from your experiences. But now I would want you to reflect and I mean, your 30 years of working time. Tell us some of the few learnings that you would want to share with the world. What can be those learnings? It can be professional related, and but it can be from you as a leader also.
So I have a first learning is if you want to grow in the profession, you have to keep raising your hand. The problem I find with a lot of people in communication, they feel that if I raise my hand, I will get more work, which is true, you will get more work. But if only when you raise your hand do you get noticed. And only when you get noticed will you enter the room that you want to be in. I have also heard from many people saying, why are we not in the boardroom? I want to tell them, look at the mirror. Ask yourself, why are you not in the boardroom? Why is it that we believe that it is our entitlement to be in the boardroom? If you want to be in the boardroom, you have to prove yourself, right? You get one chance. And in that chance, you need to be prepared. You need to be absolutely sure and confident and clear about what you're going to say, that that one moment is going to wow everybody. And you will be called back. I have had the privilege of presenting to the board, discussing with the board, and not only that, I have had the during some of the I have handled three mergers and acquisitions for companies that I worked in, that I was in a meeting where I was the only one from communication, whereas we were talking about merger between two companies, right? Because the deal team wanted me there because they said you asked the right questions. That was the only thing. That was my only job, asking the right questions. Because sometimes they are not able to ask certain questions because of the roles they are playing. But I am playing a different role. From a communication perspective, I can always ask a question which nobody has thought about. So, like to give you an example, I'm not going to not mention the deal, but here we were in this huge room with many of the consultants and many people. We were discussing how to carry forward the integration and the acquisition. and we were leaving out one very important cohort, which were the distributors. So I just raised my hand and said, what is the communication pack for the distributors? Then everybody said, shit, we never thought about it. Because distributors are very powerful people in their local areas. And if you do not take them into your confidence as a part of the rollout plan, and if you leave them out and you go to them last minute, what is hit? Your actual business is hit. It's not reputation, but your business will be hit. And when your business is hit, when you newly acquired something, your reputation will be hit. So these are all very simple things. I think communication is actually native intelligence. Use it. Everybody is born with it. The second thing I will say is, as much as possible, bring the outside in. So I have actually had the good fortune of creating platforms to bring external speakers in to come and speak with the HR team, with the sales team, with the CEO, with the leadership team, just for them to know that there is something different that's happening outside and you need to be ready for it. So bringing the outside in is very critical. And the third thing I will say is have fun. Have lots of fun with everything that you do. It's a very stressful profession. It's not a profession that many people understand. It's not a profession that has got I mean, like, you don't get certification for that profession, as you go up and grow in that profession. But I feel we do a very, very important role. We play a very important role in the organization, and have fun.
Very interesting. I mean, you're tempting me to switch, huh? Just the final bit of our conversation. I've seen you very passionately working with women, for women, mentoring them, guiding them. Tell us more about that. This is your own way of giving back to the society. How are you working there?
Yeah, it actually started in a very weird way, when this, in a sense that I was getting mentored in GSK, and I had the opportunity of being trained as a mentor, and I was doing mentoring for a few other people in the organization, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, because I feel that mentoring is not just giving; it's also getting. It's getting a lot. I mean, I learned so much from my mentees. I mean, I have done mentoring for startup founders, and wanting to expand their businesses, and now in the process of selling their businesses and going for the next adventure. I have been able to have mentees who are exceptionally good worker but are not getting promotion, in a organization which is probably a lot not very diverse organization, so skewed more towards men. So how she suddenly, after 8 months of mentoring, she gets not only a promotion, she gets a recognition from the CEO. So, those are the moments when you feel that you've just moved a stone or a rock from somebody's, flow, and it's really rewarding. And I learn from them a lot. I learn about new businesses. I learn about people. I learn about, new ways of doing business, the same business, new ways. So I think that makes it a lot more meaningful for me.
Good to know. Good to know. Just before we let you go, one thing. What would you advise to the younger set of professionals? As you rightly mentioned, this is the profession that not everybody understands, right? What would be your one piece of advice, given that we are seeing a lot of conversations around how Gen Zs are at work? They have a different nature of working. Uh, many rules at offices, how offices are shaping up, how cultures are shaping up. What would be your one piece of advice to the younger set of professionals?
I'll give you two advice. One is, every generation has a very different experience of working, and nothing is right or wrong. Like, what I went through is right for me, may not be right for my predecessor, and my subordinates will go through a different experience. So my only request is embrace it. Embrace everything that comes your way. If you are going to swim stronger than the waves hitting you, you have to embrace that wave. You cannot let it subsume you and dissolve you in that. You have to power through it. The second thing I will leave behind for everybody is that as you grow, lift others. Because if your teams don't grow, you don't grow. And whatever your learning is, somebody else will sharpen it and use it differently and use it better, possibly. But that shouldn't stop you from sharing your learning, because your learning is not yours. Your learning is there for the universe, and that's the beauty of working in a team and growing together.
You're sounding like a dreamy boss right now, that everybody might want to have one.
Thank
But
you.
at this
That's
point,
great.
I must thank you for making time for this dialogue, and I look forward to more such conversations. This has been an insightful discussion. Thank you so much, Deepa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Resham. And I hope we can stay in touch and do more such talks together.
100%.
Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.